Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule.
Nos programmes offrent plusieurs langues. Veuillez visiter suprememastertv.com/schedule.
Nuestros programas ofrecen varios idiomas. Visite suprememastertv.com/schedule.
Манай нэвтрүүлгүүд олон хэлээр гардаг. Зочлох хаяг suprememastertv.com/schedule.
Kayak building and use is a notable aspect of Inuit culture. It dates back at least 4,000 years, and kayaks have been used by the various Inuit groups stretching from Siberia to Greenland. This style of boat is very popular today with water sports enthusiasts. The Arctic's resilient Inuit people. Watch on to find out more.
Kanwe PC? That's how are all of you in Inuktitut, one of the languages spoken by those living in the Nunavut region. The hardy people of Nunavik wish that you always have friends and family around to give you cheer. Respected viewers, I'm Vanessa. Welcome to today's show, The Arctic's Resilient Inuit People, that explores the traditions of this intrepid group. The Inuit are a remarkable indigenous community who are considered the world's northernmost culture. They are the descendants of the Thule, people who lived along Alaska's Arctic coastline around 900 AD and expanded east to Greenland by 1100 AD. Living above the tree line in the Arctic, this nomadic group needed to develop special skills to survive. Today, Inuit are concentrated in Canada, Greenland, Russia, and Alaska, USA. Architecture. One of the most famous and iconic structures made by the Inuit is the igloo, which they developed as a temporary shelter for the long, harsh winters. While it may seem unbelievable that a building made of snow could keep someone warm against the sub-zero temperatures and Arctic winds, snow is a surprisingly good insulator. An igloo is typically made of very hard-packed snow and excellent at blocking out wind. Once people are inside the structure, their body heat warms the interior, causing a small amount of melting. If they then leave the igloo for a period, the inside walls freeze up again. The ice created serves as a barrier to the colder temperatures outside. Igloos may be made to fit one person, but in some communities, they would build larger ones for ceremonies. Sometimes hallways were created between the ceremonial structure and several smaller igloos, turning it into a multi-room compound capable of housing up to 20 people. Transportation. Another iconic feature of the ancient Inuit was their mode of transportation. During the warmer months, when travel on ice and snow was not practical, they walked on foot and used boats. They had two types of boats, the umiak and the kayak. The umiak was the larger one and used for transporting people and trading goods. It was often referred to as the women's boat because women would often row with the men sitting in the rear steering the craft. Umiaks could carry up to 15 people, but were also light enough to lift out of the water and transport across the ice. Kayak building and use is a notable aspect of Inuit culture. It dates back at least 4,000 years, and kayaks have been used by the various Inuit groups stretching from Siberia to Greenland. This style of boat is very popular today with water sports enthusiasts. One of the unique features of an Inuit kayak is that the watertight covered deck protects the navigator from the elements, water spray, and waves. Music and song. A great deal about the Inuit can be understood by their approach to music. In the past, the Inuit did not have a word in their language that describes music the way Westerners define it. The term they used encompassed the sounds of voices, instruments, nature, and animals. Their songs can be divided into several different categories. Katajak, or throat singing, is a vocal game or contest usually involving one or more pairs of women. The Canadian Encyclopedia states Katajak is basically constructed from repeated motifs, themes, and the succession of chosen morphemes, a word or part of a word that has a meaning. Pizit songs are sacred, typically accompanied by a drum, and are of joy, healing, and resilience. They record Inuit history and are poetry-like. Ayaya songs are personal stories that express a longing. Cultural attitudes toward anger. The Inuit are masters of managing their anger in a positive way. In fact, if an adult were to express anger towards a small child or anyone else, for their behavior, the adult would be viewed negatively for having a tantrum, and it would be considered very demeaning. Their ability to control their temper and channel it in positive directions is one of the reasons they are considered a very gentle and caring culture. We are going to pause for a bit for an important message. When we return, we will take a look at contemporary Inuit art and the impact climate change is having on the beautiful Inuit people. Please stay tuned to Supreme Master Television. Welcome back, noble viewers. We are now going to briefly explore modern Inuit art and then examine how climate change is negatively affecting the Inuit people. Contemporary art. While there have been many phases and types of art in the Inuit culture over time, contemporary Inuit art has become very popular in Canada and abroad with art collectors. Much of the modern art is either carvings made of soapstone or serpentine or printmaking. Present-day Inuit art has many themes, including depictions of their traditional lifestyle, revered animals, and spirits from their region, Inuit survival skills, and their mythologies. Climate change. The Arctic is experiencing some of the most rapidly warming climates on the planet. Temperatures there are increasing at twice the rate of the rest of the world, putting the Inuit on the front lines of climate change. Today they live in modern buildings, but most of them continue to live in the Arctic, where their roads, villages, towns, and cities are built on permafrost. Permafrost is earth that remains frozen year-round, but with the warming climate, it's turning into mud and losing its ability to sustain many of the structures built upon it. Roads and buildings are cracking and shifting. Some places, like the community of Rigolet in Labrador, Canada, are so remote that there are no roads. The locals have relied on trails across the ice to travel places, but with the rising temperatures, these important routes to bring in necessary supplies for survival can become dangerous because sudden thaws can weaken and open gaps in the ice. In recognition of the rapid pace of transformation in the Arctic and the threat to the people and the region, representatives of governments with territory in the Arctic and Indigenous Arctic peoples have focused on finding solutions. A multi-stakeholder group called the Arctic Council has emphasized the need to prioritize reducing methane and black carbon emissions. A significant lessening of these climate change drivers can have a rapid impact on reversing global warming and thus help preserve the Arctic and the lands of the Inuit and other indigenous cultures. Most current efforts to slow or reverse climate change are focused on limiting CO2 releases because it is one of the most abundant greenhouse gases. However, carbon dioxide can last for tens of thousands of years in the atmosphere, meaning that efforts to reduce CO2, while important, will not have much of a climate impact in our lifetimes. By contrast, methane, which is the third most prevalent greenhouse gas, has a global warming potential 86 times greater than CO2, and most of it is gone from the atmosphere in about 10 to 12 years. Black carbon, which is not a greenhouse gas, has a significant impact. Also known as soot, black carbon is created during events like forest fires, releasing the substance into the atmosphere. This soot can travel thousands of kilometers and end up on the snow on the glaciers and polar ice caps. When the sun's rays hit snow that has black carbon particles on it, the soot's dark color intensifies the warming effect of the sun, speeding the rate of melting, which can increase sea level rise. Over a 100-year period, black carbon has a warming effect 100 to 2,000 times greater than CO2. By placing greater emphasis on reducing these two short-lived climate forcers, we can bring about a rapid slowing or reversal of climate change. The animal livestock industry is the highest source of human-generated methane. Purposely burning forests to create pasture land or spaces to grow animal feed crops produces significant amounts of black carbon. Thus, we can have a tremendous effect on preserving the towns and cities of the Inuit and their culture by eating a vegan diet. The modern Inuit come from a lineage of people dating back thousands of years who have had to survive in harsh conditions. But the specter of climate change is one that is threatening their unique and vibrant way of life. We pray that there will soon be a rapid and full embrace of the plant-based diet globally, as this will halt the Arctic's melting and help safeguard the Inuit culture. Peaceful viewers, it has been a pleasure to have your company on today's program. May you continue to delight the world with your cheerfulness and joy.
Our programs offer many languages. Please visit suprememastertv.com/schedule and suprememastertv.com/CTAW.